Good morning, K1. Happy Monday. I hope you guys all had a wonderful weekend. It was so beautiful and sunny out, so hopefully you got outside, maybe you swam in the pool, went for a bike ride, and we are back for another week of learning. I had so much fun on our Zoom call on Friday. Thank you guys for bringing in those items to show. I really enjoyed seeing all of them. And thank you to Parker for giving us a great idea for this Friday, which is going to be telling a riddle or a joke. So be thinking this week of a riddle or joke that you want to share on our Zoom call this Friday. We are also going to be offering some other Zoom calls during this week. So Mrs. Whalen's going to be doing some live religion lessons. I'm going to do some foundations and a read aloud. So feel free to join us for those. You don't have to. They're not going to be any additional work, but if you have some free time and you want to join in our Zoom calls, we're going to be doing a few more of those this week, and also giving calls to any of you that want to have some one-on-one time with us. So let's go ahead and get started with our day. Yesterday was the 26th of April, which means today is the 27th. On Friday, it was our 149th day of school, which means today is our 150th day of school. So we're going to get rid of all these ones, and we are going to add another group of 10. 150 days. Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. All right, what day of the week was it yesterday? Yesterday was Sunday. Yesterday was Sunday. If yesterday was Sunday, today is Monday. And if today is Monday, tomorrow will be Tuesday. Awesome. And we have two new sight words this week. Our first sight word is now. And the motion we're going to do for now is we're going to act like we're little babies again, and we're going to stomp our feet and say, now! I want it now! Our first sight word is now. All right, our second sight word this week is of. And we're going to put our hand over our heart like we're saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And our sentence for of is, we live in the United States of America. Of. So this week, be thinking of some more sentences using the words now and of. All right, let's look at our morning message. Good morning, Kinder Crew. Today is Monday, April 27th, 2020. Do these words have the same beginning sounds? Love, Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Whalen. All right, I am going to give you some beginning sounds, and I want you to, or some words, and I want you to tell me, do those words have the same beginning sound? So do they start with the same sound? Are you ready? Okay, our first words are ball and box. Do ball and box start with the same beginning sound? Ball, box. Yes or no? Yes, they have the same beginning sound. They both start with b, b, b. All right, our next words are top and rug. Top and rug. Do those have the same beginning sound? Yes or no? Nope, they don't. Top starts with t, 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 and rug starts with r. All right, our next words are sit and stop. Sit, stop. Do those have the same beginning sound? Yes or no? Yes, they do. They both start with the S, which is the letter S. All right, our next set of words, pick and kite. Pick kite. Do those have the same beginning sound? Yes or no? Nope, those don't have the same beginning sound. Pick starts with P and kite starts with K. All right, our last group of words. Are you ready? Mess and mop. Do mess and mop have the same beginning sound? Yes or no? Yes, they do. They both start with the letter M. Awesome job, kindergarten. Let's get started with our lessons. For your 14-1 Common Core Math Review page, for number 1, which number tells about joining the groups of leaves? So if you joined these groups of leaves, what number tells you how many leaves you will have? For number 2, 3 birds are in a tree. 2 birds come. How many birds are there in all? Which addition sentence tells this story? 3 birds are in a tree, 2 more come. How many birds are there in all? Which addition sentence tells this story? For math today, we are going to be going over shapes. And I know that most of you, if not all of you, already know your shapes. So these first few lessons are just going to be a review of shapes that I know you already know. So we're going to actually be doing the challenge sheets, the enrichment sheets, instead of the practice and reteach pages in your math workbook. So I will be sending out the review page that we normally do, and then also the enrichment page instead of the practice and reteach. You can also do those two if you want to, but they're super easy, so I'm also going to give you the enrichment sheet to work on. So for today, the shape that we're going to be looking at is a rectangle, and this is a rectangle. So a rectangle has 4 sides, and it also has 4 corners. 4 sides and 4 corners. And the sides that are parallel to each other, so these 2 sides are parallel to each other, these 2 sides are parallel to each other. So the sides that are parallel, so they're the 2 that are right on top of each other, or lined up, they're right across from the other side, those sides are the same length. So since these 2 are parallel, you can see that they're the same length. These 2 sides are parallel, you can see that they are the same length. So for math today, in addition to doing the review page and the enrichment page, I want you to find 5 things in your house that are the shape of a rectangle. And to practice that, I'm going to show you a view of the front of our classroom, and I want you to tell me if you see anything that is shaped like a rectangle, that has 4 sides and 4 corners, and the sides that are parallel to each other are the same length. All right, let's take a look at the classroom. All right, so now looking at the classroom, do you see any shapes that are rectangles? So do you see anything here that is the shape of a rectangle? All right, you can pause the video if you need more time to look for rectangle shapes, but I'm going to point out a few shapes that are rectangles. The first shape that I see that is a rectangle, or the first thing in our classroom that is a rectangle, are the days of the week cards that we have at the front of our board. Those are rectangles. Another shape that is a rectangle are our class schedule cards. Those are shaped like a rectangle. And the last item that is shaped like a rectangle are the We Are Learning cards, where we write our success criteria and our learning intentions. And you might have been able to find some other rectangles too. So now you're gonna go into your house and you're gonna find 5 more items that are the shape of rectangles. Good luck. Readers, sometimes I ask you questions before we read a book. And sometimes I ask you questions while we're reading, and sometimes I even ask you questions after we're done reading the book. But did you know that readers themselves also ask questions before, during, and after reading a book? For example, if I'm looking at the cover of this book here, I might be thinking to myself, why is the bird on top of that cat's head? Is the bird bothering the cat? By looking at this cover, do you have any other questions about this book? So some questions that we ask start with things like who, what, where, when, and why. So thinking about these words can help us to come up with some questions we might have about our books, either before, during, or after reading them. So again, for example, I thought to myself, why is that bird on top of that cat's head? So I thought about why. Or is that bird bothering the cat? And that could be another why or what. So these words help us to think of questions as readers while we're reading our books. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this story, and I'm gonna think about if any of my questions were answered during this story. So remember, my questions were, why is the bird on his head? And is the bird bothering the cat? So I'm gonna look at my cover. Remember, you can also preview your book before you start reading it. Look at the cover, it's called Feathers for Lunch. I can look at some of the pictures. I can see what I think this book might be about. And now that I've previewed it and thought of some questions, I can go ahead and start reading my book. So readers, remember when you're reading, we still need to use our superpowers that we learned. So our pointer power, you can either use your pointer if you still have it in your book bag, or you can use your finger. Also remember to tap the sounds. If it's a tricky word, you can at least try to figure out the beginning sound and then see if you can figure out the rest. But at least try to think about the beginning sound, because if you know the beginning sound, sometimes you can use what other power to help you figure it out. You can use your picture power paired with your sound power, so those two things together can also help you figure out the word. So don't forget, even though you're at home, you still need to use your superpowers, because we spent so long building up your muscles big and strong. You don't want them to get weak. Superman makes sure that he keeps working out and keeping his muscles strong so that he can fight the bad guys. And we need to make sure that we keep using our superpowers so that we don't lose our reading muscles. All right, so let's go ahead and read Feathers for Lunch. Uh-oh, doors left open, just a crack. My cat is out and he won't come back. He's looking for lunch, something new. And you'll notice that on these pages, they also have labels. Even though this is a fiction book, this book decided to label some of the pictures. So for example, they labeled this American Robin. A spicy treat for today's menu. His food in a can is tame and mild. So what do you think tame and mild means? If his food in the can, he's looking for something else because his food is tame and mild. What do you think that means? It means that it doesn't have much flavor. It's mild, it doesn't have any spices or any interesting taste to it. It's just kind of blah, just kind of bland. So he's gone out for something wild. He's snooping and sneaking. Those birds sure look good. If he could catch one, he'd eat it. He would. But when his bell jingles, birds call a loud warning. Big Cat got out early this morning. But cats can't fly and they can't soar. And birds know what their wings are for. So he keeps prowling, hoping to munch. But all he catches are feathers for lunch. The lunch that got away. So these are all the birds that he didn't catch. All right, so now that I've read the book, I can think back to the questions. So remember, before we started reading, we previewed the book and we thought of questions we might have. So I came up with some questions, maybe you thought of some questions that you had, and now that we're finished, we can think back to those questions and answer them. So maybe the book answered them and maybe the book didn't answer them, but that's okay. So the first question I asked was, why is that bird right on top of the cat's head? And the book didn't really answer that question. I could maybe take a guess, but I don't know exactly why, but maybe because they're flying around or they are trying to get away from the cat. And the second question that I thought about was, is the bird bothering the cat? And the bird is not bothering the cat. The cat actually went out looking to eat the bird for lunch. So I have a few other questions and I want you to choose one question to answer. You can either record yourself answering it or you can write it down and take a picture of it. So you're going to choose one of these questions to answer. And I want you to remember, when you're reading your own books, you can think of some questions just by looking at the cover that you might have about that book. Because remember, readers, to keep our reading muscles strong, we need to make sure we're still reading some of our just right books and maybe some more challenging books so that we can make sure that we keep our skills sharp and we keep up being the super readers that we are. So I'm going to go ahead and show you those questions. The first question that you can answer is, what words did you hear that rhyme? So you can go back and watch the story again and you can either write or say some words that you heard that rhyme. The second question says, how would you describe the cat? So remember, last week we talked about character descriptions and traits on the inside and on the outside. So if you were going to describe the cat inside and outside, how would you describe him? And the last question, do you think the cat will try again tomorrow? Why or why not? So if you say yes, why do you think so? If you say no, why do you think so? Remember, you only have to answer one of these questions. Writers, for writing today, you are going to begin your animal research project. So hopefully, if you didn't pick on Friday, you had some time this weekend to think about what animal you might want to research, and you made sure that you either had books at home about that animal or you were able to find books on Epic that were about that animal. So you're going to go ahead today and start filling out your own animal research graphic organizer, just like the one I filled out last week about pandas. So I'm going to remind you the information that you need to put in your graphic organizer, and it also says it at the top as well. So you're going to include what your animal looks like, what it eats, where it lives, and other fun facts. So again, you can either write the information or you can draw a picture of it. Just remember, if you draw a picture of it, you are going to need to write some words when we go into our book. So if you can try to sound out at least a word, try to do that if you can. And remember, these do not need to be in complete sentences if you do write words. You just need to write down some notes. So you're going to fill out what it looks like, what it eats, where it lives, and other fun facts. And you're gonna have 2 days to do this. So you're gonna be working on this graphic organizer today and tomorrow. So try to have at least one fact in each box. If you want to put more than one, that's great, but try to at least have one fact in each box. I used sticky notes just in case I needed to change something or take something off. It was easier for me to do that. If you don't want to use sticky notes, you don't have to, but I would suggest writing it in pencil so that if you need to change something, you can erase it easily. So again, you're working on your graphic organizer for your animal for the next 2 days. So happy researching, writers. Thanks for another great day of learning kindergarten. I hope you guys had fun. I had fun with you. And remember, we are getting closer to the end of the year, and all of the kindergarten teachers have been brainstorming some fun ways that we can still do our show off together. So make sure that you're still practicing the dances and the songs that we learned. And I can go ahead and post this week the songs and the lyrics to the songs that we've learned earlier in the year so that you can practice those as well. But for the new ones that we learned when we were not together, you can go back in the videos that I posted to remember the stand up, the rainbows rock, and each of us is a flower. And we have 2 more songs to learn that I'm gonna teach you next month. So make sure you're still practicing those and have a great rest of your day. Bye, kindergarten.